The New Hampshire Eviction Notice. What is an eviction notice? Eviction notice, or notice to quit, is a letter sent by the landlord to the tenant notifying them that they should either take or stop a certain action or vacate the rented premises. Eviction notice can be of two types. Conditional, when a tenant is given time to remedy the breach of the lease, or unconditional, when a landlord terminates the lease without any alternative options for a tenant. What should an eviction notice include? Information about the tenant and the landlord. The reason for sending the notice. The date by which the tenant should take or stop a certain action. The consequences of non-compliance. The date and way of notice delivery and the landlord's signature in the form of certificate of service attached to the notice. How to evict a tenant in New Hampshire. Non-payment notice. There is no statutory grace period for rent payment in the state of New Hampshire. This enables the landlord to send the notice to the tenant the very next day after the rent is due, unless otherwise stated in the lease. In the state of New Hampshire, the landlord is not required to give the tenant the chance to pay late rent if the latter fails to pay it after the due date. But New Hampshire requires the landlord to send a 7-day notice before terminating the contract. If the tenant pays the owed amount till the end of the notice period, the landlord should stop the eviction process. Non-compliance notice. If the tenant violates other terms of the lease, a 30-day notice should be sent to them. It should not necessarily give the tenant the possibility to correct the issue, and it may require them to quit the rental unit. In case of substantial damage to the rented property, a 7-day notice to quit should be sent to the tenant. The same applies to tenants who threaten health and safety of other tenants or the landlord. What if the tenant fails to comply? If the landlord fails to comply with the rules of the lease, they should file a complaint with the appropriate New Hampshire court. The filing fee is $125 regardless of the court where the hearing is held. After the landlord appeals to court, the tenant should get the summons and complaint by a person who is not a part of the process. If the tenant wants to contest the eviction, they should file an appearance with the court by the return date listed on the summons. The tenant's failure to file an appearance or attend the hearing might result in a judgment in favor of the landlord by default. If the landlord wins the case, a writ of possession will be issued. According to such an order, a law enforcement officer will be able to forcibly remove the tenant from the rented premises, but the tenant might request a stay of execution for up to 3 months from the court.